approaching the museum and memorial on West right now. Just how, from a layer of protection, it seems as though there's almost, I know there can never be too much security, but it seems as though the Pope has so much around him.
And he definitely needs it. And the reason why for that, Chris, is because the foundation of security is intelligence. And the intelligence tells us exactly what we need, where we need it, and how many people we need to provide it. So with that as that bedrock, we've created a sense here that provides the Pope everything that he needs to do what he needs to do today, peacefully and safely.
He's got his coordinator of the papal visit right there with him, Alberto Gaspari, who is never far from the Pope, along with the Swiss Guard, Secret Service, and all of the security detail. What is it that we're not seeing? We're seeing a lot of security around him, but what's going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing?
And that's the best question of all, Chris, is the fact that most of the security that's going to be here today, and while he's here, is what you're not going to see. It's the electronic surveillance and the human assets that are actually in the crowd from those different layers that are watching and observing everything that could be a warning sign that could present a risk.
From what you've seen so far, this Pope loves to interact with the people. I know that is a nightmare for the Secret Service and for the Swiss Guard. How has it been so far as the people the Pope being able to get close enough, but not so much where he's been in danger either in Washington or here?
Believe it or not, Chris, it really isn't that much of a nightmare because the people that are working transportation for the Pope are accustomed to that. They're used to working with heads of state, presidents, and certainly the Pope, who's a very people-oriented person. So the primary objective there is to anticipate what he's going to be able to do, read the crowd, and have contingencies to go.
As far as what you've seen, in your level of experience, have you ever seen anything like this before? This security, this event, I mean, this is an event, like you said, this is bigger than a Super Bowl.
There's no question about it. Having worked with Super Bowl security, World Cup, there is absolutely, this supersedes them all. There's no question.
As far as the vulnerability, what is the greatest vulnerability in your estimation or in the security experts' estimation?
There's no question about the biggest issue, the highest probability of risk, is the fact that you've got terrorist groups that makes the Pope the most prolific target in history. Not just the fact that he's in the United States and not just the fact that he's here in New York, but right here at the 9/11 Memorial. This is the brass ring for a terrorist, whether it's Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Al-Shabaab, whoever it is, this is the brass ring.
How nervous were officials leading up to this visit? I know there lone wolf was obviously a big concern. There were some people that were picked up along the way in New Jersey, to name a few. How concerned were they that something could actually be perpetrated?
I think they're very concerned about it, which is why they've prepared so extremely well with respect to what I mentioned earlier, those layers of security. When you think about what happened with Al-Qaeda's chief, when he came back, I think it was September 15, Chris, when he said, I'm calling on all young Muslims to launch an attack on U.S. soil. This would be the perfect time for them.
All right. Paul Violas, thanks so much. We do appreciate you taking the time. Really
Pleasure.
good to speak with you. Give us a little insight as to what is actually going on, not only on camera, but also behind the scenes. You are looking at Pope Francis now making his way to the south reflecting pool where he will pause. We saw you, showed you a few moments ago where he will take a few moments to pay his respects to the almost 3,000 lives lost here on 9/11 and also with the bombing in '93. And of course, you see Cardinal Dolan center of your screen. Mary, I know it's there's been a lot going on at the UN this morning, but now all the action has made its way here to the 9/11 Memorial and Museum.
And we've been watching him side by side with Cardinal Timothy Dolan. It's been a special moment, too, for Cardinal Dolan, but certainly a very busy one, too, hasn't it been? At St. Patrick's Cathedral, I know there was a lot of work going on to prepare for that and a lot of work going on to prepare for this as well, Father Carrozza.
Yes, definitely. I'm sure he's going to take a breather when it's all over.
He's going to need one for sure.
Absolutely.
This pontiff has made so many stops, and he is about to join a prayer service and lead a prayer at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. This is a very special moment. This is a very poignant moment for New York.
Yes, unity. Unity between all the different religions that are involved to show that we are standing together and that we will not let anything come in between us, most especially having our Muslim brothers with us as well to show that they are not supporting the terrorism that is taking advantage of their beliefs, but that we're all standing together to pray for peace, that nothing like this will happen again.
Mark, go ahead
A special prayer from the Pope at the 9/11 Memorial. The Pontiff pausing at the reflecting pools where the towers once stood. Families of those lost have been invited to this special moment. There are hundreds gathered at the 9/11 Memorial and then the museum. Cardinal Timothy Dolan taking him through, touring him through the site, explaining that site very specifically, and we saw that rose placed at the reflecting pools. There you see Mayor Bloomberg greeting the Pontiff. A number of leaders there at that site, and Chris, you were there as well, watching this moment unfold.
You know, Mary, it is a powerful moment to see the Pontiff standing there at the South Reflecting Pool, to take those moments, to take in this this symbol of resilience and rebirth, full of life, but at the same time a place where people come to now honor the memory of the heroes and the victims of that day. These 1,000 guests invited by the 9/11 Museum and Memorial, lining the 3 panels, and then of course some special invited guests were brought over to shake the hand and meet the Pope briefly, led by, as you can see, Mayor Bloomberg there right of your screen, who was on the board here and was instrumental in the process of moving along the museum and memorial. You could almost sense Father Mike Russo with me right now, that Cardinal Dolan was almost explaining kind of to the Pope exactly what had happened, that this is where the towers once stood, and what happened on that fateful day.
Well, it's an amazing space, and of course it's the very first time that Pope Francis has been to New York. So the size of these buildings has to impress him.
Yeah.
And I would also say that the image of him next to that cobalt steel-looking granite,
yeah,
in his white outfit, it's an amazing image.
It's a stark kind of a contrast. In you saw the bronze panels there, the reflecting pool, the shot the camera took from behind the Pope, where you could see the water flowing off the one panel with the Pope standing kind of in the foreground, was just kind of a beautiful image. And this, it means so much to the people here in Lower Manhattan, all of New York, all of the nation, to see the Holy Father here. The last time a Pope was here, back in 2008, Pope Benedict was here, and as we know, at that point, it was really still more of an open wound than what we see now, which is is kind of this symbol of rebirth and resilience.
I also see Mayor Giuliani there as well.
Sure, yes. His back to the screen right now, Mayor Giuliani, and I think that may be his wife Judith with him there. But Mayor Bloomberg doing a nice job of introducing the guests one by one as they come up to pay their respects.
I always marvel at the fact the number of electronic devices that people place in front of the Pope. But this woman is having a conversation with him, that's for sure.
He's embraced it so well.
Yes.
It's kind of been incredible how every shot you see, so many people just kind of inching their way to just, not to get so much close to the Pope, but to get a picture of the Pope. It seems to be the bigger priority.
And also kissing him. I mean, there's a man just a few minutes ago embracing him, which is quite amazing.
Never a child that the Pope will not take a few moments to see and to bless. In another moment you see there, he's so gracious when it comes to not only the children, but also the elderly, and of course everyone in between, but he really seems to embrace both the children and the elderly.
Well, I was at his audience in Rome back in January, and he gets energized by people, and particularly in the audience hall in Rome, you have diplomats, important visitors, but he always gives time to the people who are on the periphery.
He understands how important this is, the message this sends to have him here, does he not?
Sure he does. It's a place where a priest, and I say he's the parish priest of the world, has to deal with the day-to-day griefs of people and the pain that they suffered on that day. And continue to suffer, we should say.
It's really, we say it every anniversary of 9/11. It's kind of one of those things where you think that time will heal all wounds. We really feel like this is one that is not necessarily fits into that category. It's still a very, I know, having grown up in the area myself, it's still, you look back behind me and you see all that's done and all the progress that's been made, but it feels like just yesterday.
Sure. Absolutely.
And you look down on the plaza, you see from our perspective here these beautiful leafy oak trees and how the memorial itself has really matured and kind of grown into its own space. It really is a beautiful sight, and it's to have a pope there now for these people that are getting the opportunity to come see him. I'm not saying it necessarily makes it better, but it's a nice touch for some people that deserve it.
When I was going to NYU many years ago, I'd come over from New Jersey through the PATH trains, and I knew all the different ways to get under the old World Trade Center. And in a way, that still exists in my mind, you know, and in so many ways, the memory of that site is part of us as New Yorkers.
Mary, you can see here from your monitor at the UN, I know it's a beautiful day over there, but the way the sun is cast on this memorial right now, it just lends itself to just what a beautiful scene this is playing out on television live right now.
It is spectacular. The skies have been beautiful each and every stop along his journey to the Americas. You know, we just heard him speak on the global stage, but now to watch him one-on-one, a very personal stage there, and to greet the 9/11 families and those lost, and to see him be able to reach out, give someone a hug. That compassion is really shown each and every time we've seen him go from place to place. We've been talking about these global issues and these controversial issues, but now we see this poignant moment at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum and how he's greeting each and every person, taking his time with them as well. He is never worried about the clock, it seems, or his schedule. He really wants to make sure he has a complete meeting with each and every person he has a chance to see. We have with us Father Carrozza, and I wanted to ask you, when we hear these messages from the Pope, we know what we are hearing on a global stage, but what about on a very local stage? What about in the local parishes, in your own parish?
Oh, I think that a lot of what he said can really sink down to the basic level, taking care of the poor and many of the things that we do, and under it all, rediscovering ourselves and our faith, and what a difference we can make just by following the example that he is doing.
And Father, can I add that when I was in Washington yesterday, someone came up to me and said, you know what? It's cool to be Catholic.
Yes. Oh, I would certainly agree. And I think even our young people, it's resonating with them. One of the things that I find those who are active and involved are starting to realize that it's about a lifestyle, not just a creed.
The instantaneous reaction on social media has really been remarkable. He has millions of followers, more than 1 million since he visited to America. And now we are taking a look at this as he meets with a number of leaders in the New York area. And Chris, now he will go to the museum. And you were there for a very special moment.
Yes, Mary, we just saw a couple of the guests that the Pope was actually saying hello with before he's now making his way into the museum. Howard Lutnick, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, if you remember, no company lost more employees on that day back on September 11th of 2001 than Cantor Fitzgerald. And then the final guest was Joe Daniels, who is the president and CEO, who you've seen featured on CBS this morning, of the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. The Pope is now going to be ushered into the south exit of the museum, with kind of a private door that's used, obviously, for outgoing guests at the museum, where he'll be then ushered down to Foundation Hall. And as you see, Mayor Bloomberg, that's his daughter Georgina there, and Mayor Bloomberg's grandson now receiving a blessing from the Pope. And then, as I mentioned, the Pope will make his way inside the exit door, down 3 stories to Foundation Hall, where the interfaith service will take place. Father Mike Russo, what can we expect here? I know it's this Pope, it's a series of major events, one after the next. There's really no kind of, oh, this is just a little meet and greet. This is another big one. What do you think is the message that needs to be sent during this speech?
Well, this particular service is called a Witness to Peace. And it's an interplay of religious leaders of New York, and the Pope providing a prayer at the end of it. And it's quite last night, and it's rather moving. And he will have an opportunity to speak toward the middle of this service with song and with leaders of our faith communities here in Manhattan and in New York City.
You can see some of the other dignitaries on hand. Senior Senator Charles Schumer. This is now, by my count, his third visit with the Pope in the last day and a half. Also, Mayor Bill de Blasio there to the left on your screen. Also, Governor Cuomo. And his girlfriend Sandra Lee there, who also last night received a blessing from the Pope at the end of Vespers, and now talking with Cardinal Timothy Dolan on your screen.
With Cardinal Dolan, there's Monsignor Miles, who's the translator, and behind him is the very famous Father Lombardi, who is the press secretary to the Pope.
Yes, they've been featured prominently on this trip. Monsignor Miles, who speaks with that crisp British accent, has become a little bit of a celebrity in his own right. He's a very shy man. Because he has been asked to be interviewed a number of times, and he says, I'm really nothing more than just a kind of a boring bloke.
And he's from Gibraltar, as you might know.
But very well spoken, and a beautiful voice, doing a number of the translations so far. He's been spectacular. And then you see Mayor Giuliani, also middle of your screen, as they're going to now usher the Pope inside to the museum. There's going to be about a 10-minute gap there by the time the Pope gets inside the doors there before the service will begin downstairs. It's going to be about a 35-minute interface service, and then the Pope, they've got a little surprise for him. Not so much a surprise. He obviously knows about it, but it will extend his stay here at the museum and memorial for just a few more minutes. But there he is, Pope Francis, here at the museum and memorial. Mary, I know, again, to see these images of the pontiff here, it's very impactful.